Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me this afternoon to talk through a little bit about how we here at Service First, in conjunction with CAM, are looking to provide some solutions for members of the CAM organization to reduce administrative workload and improve cash flow in construction operations. We really appreciate you taking the time, and I know that it's sometimes a little bit of a large ask to have everyone take a moment out of their day to listen through this. So we really appreciate any context or information that you can also share with our team as we work through this. One of the things that we do have to cover is just some housekeeping items. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the questions pane, and we'll get that to them towards the end. So really, what was this conversation designed for? It was designed to support CAM members in recognizing operational and financial inefficiencies to scale businesses. So my name is Devin Lildar. I'm the Vice President of Finance Automation here at Service First. And if you haven't heard of us, Service First is a finance automation organization that is also a credit card processor. So what that means is we can help you save some money when it comes to card processing, but we can also help you to streamline your organizational cash flow when it comes to things like accounts receivables, as well as accounts payables automation. Okay. Hopefully, this is a timely conversation for some of you. We've had a lot of great conversations throughout the early part of this year with a lot of works having conversations around maybe some challenges that they have in handling these processes manually today. Okay, so with that being said, let's get started. So again, my name is Devin Lildar. I have been in the fintech space for well over a decade. I've been supporting organizations, both large and small, throughout all of Canada, the United States, as well as some in Europe, to really understand where are you handling things manually today, and where are those gaps that you could potentially lend to increasing and adding in automation to solve some of those problems. Okay. With that being said, I do like to include a little bit of a fun fact. So my family is from one of the only English-speaking countries in South America, Guyana. So just a little bit about me. If you all wanted to connect afterwards, please feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you after this session. So a little bit about our agenda today. We're going to be talking through just again some welcome and introductions, and then where are we spending time in as construction organizations. So where is cash flow lost in operations? And then we'll introduce some practical automation concepts. We'll also talk through how you can better improve billing and collections without disrupting project workflows. We'll also talk through payments and general invoicing questions that contractors should be asking their teams. And then we'll work through how you can actually evaluate automation and if it's actually right for your organization. We'll leave you off with some key takeaways and next steps, and then we'll end with some Q&A. So again, if you have any questions, anything that you'd like to lend to the conversation, please use that chat or questions pane, and we'll be happy to get to them towards the end. Okay, so a little bit about the state of construction operations today. So this is really where a lot of time and cash flow are generally lost for organizations. So when you think about that, where do you all think that you are losing out in terms of cash flow coming into the business? Is it that your customers just aren't paying you? Is it that they're not paying on time? Or is there also a delay between the information that gets handled from the actual work site back to the back office and then managing all of those things together? Chances are it's probably a combination of those things, but largely it has to deal with a lot of those admin tasks. So when you think about going to the field, right? We're thinking about things like time cards, change orders, invoices, material receipts, and many organizations are still relying heavily on paper, Excel, photos, or just homegrown processes. If you have already introduced some level of automation, fantastic. But chances are it may not be the full level of automation that your organization truly needs to scale. What does this result in? The real world consequence is that most construction companies just don't lose money on jobs. It's really related to lost money in admin delays between those jobs. So again, think about that job site to office handoff problem that you might be facing. Now, as we go through this, I'm not only going to present you problems, we'll also talk through again some of the ways that you can fix some of these things. So just keep that in mind as we take these first steps here. Another piece is invoicing and collection bottlenecks. So when we think about invoicing, what happens, right? Maybe we're producing that invoice, but it's late or inconsistent because what's happening is again, we're waiting for some of those items to come back from the job site. And so when we do go to invoice, it's already delayed. And then when that invoice does go out, now we have to actually go out and collect on that invoice, right? So we have to manually follow up. We have to pick up that phone, send manual emails. Chances are that there isn't a clean and clear audit trail around most of these things. What results is that approvals also generally take days or weeks. And most ERPs, if you're not using an ERP that's really built for the construction industry, you may be facing limitations as it relates to project billing retainage management. So that can be an issue. All of this results in significant bottlenecks for the business itself. And so having an organization that can actually come in or yourself do a little bit of an audit to understand, hey, where are these bottlenecks? Where are these things breaking down? And where can we maybe potentially save some time? That's where you're going to save a whole lot of money when it comes to cash flow. Most organizations, they're stuck in the minutia of the day to day, and they don't really take the time to sit down and identify those things and map out those processes. What happens then is that payments are delayed, right? Customers don't have an easy way to pay. Once they do receive that invoice, maybe they don't have an easy pay by link or pay portal that they can access. Maybe they're relying on calling into the office and giving you their credit card over the phone. Or maybe they're sending checks, right? And a lot of checks, there's a lot of issues around fraud, but also delays in receiving that check, right? The check is in the mail. That could take maybe what, a week, 2 weeks to get over to the office before you can even deposit it. So thinking about streamlining that will help improve your overall cash flow significantly for most construction operations. So again, cash flow pain. So what are we talking about here? Poor cash flow generally relates to things like retainage adding up, right? So again, if you are manually billing out for different stages of that project, chances are you're losing a significant amount of time in between every single one of those stages. Contractors are often waiting about 30, 60, 90 days even for payment, even when the work is complete. And when collections does happen, it's manual or sporadic. It's dependent on one person, likely. Most of our small, medium businesses, they only have one true finance person. That's a significant bottleneck. And so how can we leverage technology to potentially add some of this automation so that we don't have to necessarily rely on that single choke point for collections management? That's a key thing that we should be talking about. When we think about that and collections being manual and sporadic, what's really happening is we're likely pulling things like an aging report out of our ERP and we're saying, okay, we have this list of invoices. Now, who do we have to collect on? Chances are that that's only happening on a monthly basis. There's a limitation there for anyone who's in management, maybe a CFO, or even the owner of a business. Ask yourself, do I have good visibility? Can I go to a central dashboard and see any of the invoices that are outstanding, any AP that has gone out, right? And do I have a centralized view into my exact cash flow? Chances are, for most businesses, that's a no. What's likely happening is that you're having to pull information from different sources, collate that information, and create manual reports, which makes it very difficult because that takes a significant amount of time and effort, but it also means that you're not getting a clear picture of your cash flow position. So, what we know is that in construction, payment cycles average about 83 days. That's about 3 times longer than any other typical industry. Manual processing costs construction companies on average about $42 an invoice, with 23% requiring rework due to errors. Right? Imagine if, and this is okay, if you are that single person, right? And you're sitting there and you're saying, yeah, I really feel bad that I have to do that rework. The likelihood is that you are overworked, right? That there is a significant amount of burden on your shoulders, and that's okay, right? What we know is that for most mid-market, mid-sized businesses in the United States, what happens is what's happened over the last few years. Gartner released a study about this. The only growing demographic in finance are people aged 60 years of age and over. All other age groups are actually falling out of the finance industry. What that means is that for businesses, it's harder for you to actually go out and find finance people. But for you, that single person that's there working, it means that there's an extraordinary amount of work that's on your plate, right? And so automation isn't necessarily there to take away what you're doing, it's to streamline those things and make it easier for you to handle your day to day. When we think about practical automation, what are we talking about? What we're talking about is introducing automation where you are today. We're not talking about changing things overnight, overhauling your whole ERP, throwing out big concepts like let's go paperless, and then that happens overnight. This is a significant portion of your business. Finance touches the heart of every single business, so we have to be careful about how we make any of these changes. Introducing automation into that is no different. What that means is that not we're not replacing what that means is that automation is replacing repetitive admin tasks with technology that does it automatically or with one click, but also provides visibility to the group as a whole. So some examples, if you can see at the top, example one, click to pay or mobile payment links that increase payment speed. On average, we see an uptick of about 30% for people who actually introduce click to pay or self-service resources to their clients so that they can pay more effectively. Example two is automatically routing AP invoices for approval. So instead of waiting for things to come in and you're dealing with a stack of paperwork, maybe you're having to match it to a purchase order manually, that takes a significant amount of time, right? So now what we're talking about is introducing systems that allow those invoices to come in, maybe through email, maybe you're scanning those invoices, but they're automatically matching to purchase orders. They're catching any red flags for you. And then they're flagging it upward. So if you need an approval level, it will go there automatically without you really having to move that paper around the office. So what that looks like as a whole is just a more streamlined, more efficient whole accounting process. So what we don't want to do is also disrupt workflows. So what we know for most construction businesses is that you have to move, right? You have job after job and you can't really slow down. So automation has to align with your existing workflows. It can't force new ones. So what you need to be doing is looking for systems that work with your existing ERP or accounting systems. Reduce double data entry instead of creating more. So what you're looking for is systems that do faster invoice creation. What that means is faster payment or provide auto reminder sequences. Think about systems that can actually send out some of those collection emails, but provide you an audit trail to understand how your customers are interacting with those invoices and allow you to understand, hey, maybe they did receive this invoice, but they just haven't paid it yet. Or maybe they do need another ping. And so we're confident that the system will go out and ping that customer again to make sure that the funds come into the business much faster. And you might be asking yourself, well, how do we do this, right? What are some things that we can really do to help us understand as an organization? What are we looking for so that we can identify how we can move better? So, some questions that you should be asking are your billing cycles consistent and timely? How long does it take to get an invoice out after work is completed? How many steps are required to process a customer payment? Or how easy is it for customers to pay you? What does slow payments cost your business annually? Chances are many of you probably don't even know what that cost looks like. Or for AP, how much time is spent pushing paper or obtaining approvals? So these are things that you can do. But as well, as I mentioned early on, Service First does these things for the clients that we serve and the organizations in the associations that we serve. So if you do need an external resource to support you, we're more than happy to sit there and we can provide a free business audit around these processes for you. We can provide you with suggestions of technology that could be adopted so that it can streamline some of these pain points. And if, let's say, you're not ready and you're not confident that it's the right time to make a move, that's okay. At least you can walk away with some paperwork that says, hey, this is our current environment. In the future, we may need to go towards this. And when you're ready, at least you have that at your fingertips so that you have it documented and you understand where your business is going. But it is also a very free way to ask these questions yourself, of course. And How to evaluate whether automation is a fit. So again, self-diagnose while planning for the future. So when we think about automation, think about and ask yourself, maybe this is the right fit for me if invoices are taking more than 1 to 2 days each cycle. So from invoice creation, payments are requiring multiple follow-up calls. So let's say you do have a number of clients and you just don't have the capacity to pick up that phone or send out that email. Automation can really help there, and that's a significant area where most businesses can free up a lot of time. You rely heavily on paper or PDFs. DSO is above general norm. So DSO, if you don't know, is day sales outstanding. How long does it take for you to actually receive payment? You accept credit cards but struggle with fees or reconciliation. You can also fix those things with some automation tools, right? And some a really good provider for payments. So you can introduce things like digital ACH, right? E-checks. You can provide virtual cards on the AP side so that you're reducing your risk of fraud. Projects have multiple approval layers. So let's think about, what is that structure internally for approvals, for purchase order approvals and things like that? How can we make sure that that is streamlined? And you're just a generally growing business and admin time is not scalable. I would say that last point is probably the biggest point for most businesses, most small and medium businesses today. There is a significant amount of admin time, and automation can free up a significant amount of that to allow your business to grow and unlock really an ability to scale without having to add headcount. And that's something super powerful that most businesses don't really take advantage of today. Automation and AI, AI, I've gone to several conferences this year. There's a big push to talk about AI, and that can be overwhelming because we don't necessarily know in practical terms how that can apply to our business. But when we're thinking about that, right, there are easy steps. Again, the easiest step is thinking about where am I spending the most time and how can I decipher that down into things that could be automated. Signs that automation should be avoided. Let's say you're a very small business, okay? If you're a 1 million, $2 million business, likely your billing process isn't that complex, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I hear you, but chances are you probably need to focus on things like better organization in general versus an expanded automation solution for your business. One person shops with minimal invoicing. Again, you probably, if you're a singular contractor, you probably don't need automation. And companies already deeply automated. So chances are that's not most of us. I haven't had many, very automated business conversations with members of CAM yet. So if you are one, please let me know because it's also good for me to remember and know that. Decision making framework. So how can you start to make decisions to leverage the resources that you have today? So again, map your payment workflows. What does that invoice collection process and payables process look like? Ask finance if you're not the finance individual, if you're maybe the owner sitting with me today. Ask them to identify repetitive tasks that they're handling day to day. Assign costs to manual time spent handling those tasks. So when we think about that, think about, hey, how much is this costing per hour, right? And boil that down. The cost to handle an invoice per hour on a weekly basis is significant for most construction businesses. So thinking about automation in that context is really significant because you can realize a 1 year ROI very fast. Evaluate risk to cash position with errors and delays. Think about how many times you all are encountering errors and delays, right? What is that time that it takes for things to get from the field back to the office? And when does an invoice actually go out? And when is it actually collected on? Define that ROI threshold. So again, we're in a weird economic situation. Cash flow is significant for most of our businesses. So we need to be tying cash flow back to the labor hours with finance, right? And so we need to understand if we're going to introduce automation, right there, you have a business case. If you can say, hey, it's taking somebody 40 hours a week to do just the AR process. Think about what that's doing on the AP process they're probably in over their head. If you have somebody on your team who can't, take vacation, I've met with several controllers who just can't take vacation because they're afraid that that collections process is going to break down. That's a significant pain point for that business. So think about that. That long-term ROI is definitely something impactful that your business can take away and use to grow long-term or just maintain itself long-term. And also, last one, think about your cost of accepting payments. If you do accept payments today, maybe you're more comfortable with accepting checks. But the reality is that those checks take a significant amount of time. So we have to also weigh that, right? What is that time to receive that check or other form of payment versus accepting credit cards or ACH? And how can that streamline and bring that money in faster? Okay, last few slides here, and then we'll get into questions. So if you have any, start thinking of them now. But generally, takeaway number one, automation doesn't disrupt the workflow, it simplifies it. And number two, modern payment tools accelerate cash flow dramatically. So when you think about that, again, think about what we've shared here. We'll share this recording after this call. So if you have anything that you'd like to share with the team, please go ahead and do that. If you'd like, you can always contact us. We have tons of resources that we can send out to you. But Service First is offering also a complimentary workflow review, as I had mentioned before. So we'll help you to uncover maybe where some of that time is spent today and where we can shore up some of that through automation solutions. Again, this is not a very salesy approach. It's just a way for you to understand better where it is that your business is currently and offer you some level of direction as to where you can navigate moving forward. One of the other things that I'd like to call out is that CAM members do receive exclusive benefits related to cost savings. So we actually do offer rebates back to CAM members. So if you do process credit card payments with us, we can actually offer you a rebate back on the amount of payments that you actually offer. So when you start thinking, hey, it might be expensive for us to accept credit card or ACH or whatever that is, chances are that with your membership with CAM, you can actually unlock some of that through Service First and receive some of that money back in your pocket so that you can continue to grow your business as well. I hope that this was educational. Again, we'll shift over to questions if anyone has anything, but that's all I had for you guys today. So I know that we had scheduled, I think, about 30 minutes for this, so we're a little bit ahead of time, but please, I'll take some time here just to go through any questions if you have any. Otherwise, have a fantastic afternoon. Yes, of course you can get a copy of this. Yeah. So I think at the end of this conversation, this recording will automatically be sent out. So look out for that, but we'll be sure to follow up with you as well to make sure you got that copy. Okay. Not seeing any other questions come through, but I'll hold for a minute. Also, if you're still on the line and you found this helpful, great for me to know. Please, feel free to type that into the questions pane so that we have some feedback for the team overall. Okay, all right. Not seeing any other questions come through. I hope I was very thorough. I know that this was just a high level conversation, but if you need anything more, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Service First. Thank you and have a great day.